Under the golden glow of a fading suburban sunset, the manicured lawns and pristine fences of Willow Creek Estates painted a picture of idyllic tranquility. But beneath that polished veneer, a storm was brewing, and I, Rachel Bennett, never imagined I'd be the one to ignite a revolution against the iron grip of our Homeowners Association president, Evelyn Carteret, as the neighbors venomously whispered. The tyrant. For 2 years, Evelyn had ruled Willow Creek like a dictator cloaked in bureaucratic righteousness. What began as minor regulations approved paint colors, lawn height limits morphed into a suffocating web of arbitrary edicts. HOA meetings, once mundane, became battlegrounds where Evelyn's word was law. Her piercing gaze and clipped-toned silence dissent, and her rulebook, clutched like a sacred relic, was her weapon of choice. But it wasn't until she targeted my son, Liam, and his therapy dog, Max, that I realized how far her tyranny had gone. Liam, my 12-year-old, had battled crippling anxiety for years. Panic attacks stole his sleep, and his once bright eyes were shadowed by fear. After countless failed treatments, his therapist suggested a CRVYC animal. Enter Max, a gentle golden retriever trained to anchor Liam through his darkest moments. The change was miraculous. Liam's attacks dwindled, his laughter returned, and for the first time in years he slept through the night. Max wasn't just a pet, was Liam's lifeline, worth every cent of the grueling training costs. We'd lived in Willow Creek for 5 years without a ripple. I kept my yard pristine, paid my dues on time, and even volunteered for community cleanups. By all measures, I was the model resident. That changed the day Max's toys caught Evelyn's eye. Liam and Max had been playing fetch in our fenced backyard, and afterward, Liam left a few items of rope, a tennis ball, and a squeaky bone neatly tucked in a basket on the patio. Hardly a crime. But the next morning, my inbox pinged with an email from Evelyn, subject line screaming, "Urgent violation notice, immediate action required." The email accused my property of gross noncompliance with HOA guidelines, citing unsightly pet paraphernalia, BY from common areas. I had 72 hours to remove the items or face a $50 daily fine. I read it twice, disbelief morphing into anger. Our backyard was fenced. The toys were barely noticeable unless someone was deliberately spying through the slats. Determined to resolve this rationally, I called Evelyn, calmly explaining that the items were essential for Max, Liam's registered therapy dog. I offered to provide the documentation from Liam's psychiatrist. Her response was a verbal slap. "I don't care if it's a therapy dog, a guide dog, or the Queen's personal mutt," she snapped, her voice dripping with disdain. "The rules state no unsightly items in VYEW. Dog toys are unsightly. End of story." I cited the Americans with Disabilities Act, explaining that accommodations for CRVYC animals were legally required. Her laughter was sharp, cutting. "Don't lecture me on laws, Rachel. I've run this HOA for 2 years and know every bylaw inside out. Your kid's sob story doesn't exempt you from compliance." She hung up before I could respond. I sat there, phone in hand, stunned by her callousness. But the real outrage came the next day. I came home early from my law firm, where I specialize in property law, to find Evelyn in my backyard. She'd used her HOA master key to unlock our gate and was methodically collecting Max's toys with a grabber tool, tossing them into a black trash bag. Liam stood at the back door, tears streaming down his face, watching helplessly as Max barked in distress. When Evelyn saw me, she didn't flinch. Instead, she brandished a laminated copy of the HOA bylaws like a shield. "Section 12, paragraph 4, she declared smugly. "The board reserves the right to remove violations after notice." Fury surged, but for Liam's sake, I kept my voice steady. "You have no right to be on my property, Evelyn. Those are medical tools for my son's therapy dog. You were informed." She rolled her eyes with theatrical flair. "I gave you notice yesterday. And these?" She shook the bag. "They're garbage. I'm taking them to the dump where they belong." What happened next was caught on our security camera, a pivotal moment that would later turn the tide. Liam, sobbing, ran out to plead for Max's toys, explaining they were part of his therapy exercises. Evelyn didn't hesitate. She shoved past my 12-year-old, nearly knocking him to the ground. "Control your brat," she hissed, "or I'll add unsupervised said minor causing a disturbance to your violations." Something inside me snapped out into rage, but into a chilling clarity. "Evelyn," I said, my voice low and deliberate, "you're trespassing, stealing personal property, and you just assaulted a child. I'm calling the police." Her smirk was pure arrogance. "Go ahead. They'll laugh you out of town. I'm enforcing HOA rules, which you signed up for." I dialed 911 right there, her smug expression unwavering. The officers arrived swiftly, and to their credit, they didn't dismiss me. I showed them the security footage, Evelyn's unauthorized entry, her theft of Max's toys, and her shove against Liam. I proved dead Max's therapy dog certification and Liam's medical documentation. The officers' faces hardened as they questioned Evelyn, who clung to her bylaws like a lifeline. "Regardless of your rules," one officer said sternly, "you have no legal authority to enter private property or remove items without consent. And pushing a child? That's a problem." Evelyn's confidence flickered, but she stood her ground, arms crossed, and said her HOA throne made her untouchable. As the officers escorted her to their cruiser for further questioning, I realized this was bigger than Max's toys. As a property lawyer, I'd been quietly documenting Evelyn's overreaches, every harassing email, every selective fine, every intimidation tactic. This wasn't just about my family. It was about a neighborhood suffocating under her reign. Word of Evelyn's detainment spread like wildfire. Neighbors I'd barely spoken to flooded my phone with messages, each sharing their own horror stories. Evelyn had fined an elderly widow for her bird feeder, claiming it attracted pests. She'd threatened the Patel family with penalties for their daughter's chalk art on their own driveway. The Garcias had hidden their cultural holiday decorations after Evelyn's excessive ornamentation warning. The stories painted a chilling portrait of a community held hostage by one woman's whims. Emboldened, I called an emergency HOA meeting. The turnout was staggering. Nearly every household packed the community center. I presented my dossier, evidence of Evelyn's illegal entries, discriminatory enforcement, and intimidation. I outlined the legal risks the HOA faced if her behavior continued. Board members, many unaware of her extremes, were visibly shaken. The room buzzed with outrage and relief as neighbors found their voices, no longer whispering their grievances but shouting them. Meanwhile, Evelyn's legal troubles mounted. The district attorney, armed with my evidence and testimonies from dozens of residents, charged her with criminal trespass, petty theft, and intimidation of a minor. Her defense that she was just enforcing HOA rules crumbled against the clear boundaries of state law. At her trial, half of Willow Creek filled the courtroom, a silent army of witnesses to her downfall. The judge, unimpressed by her justifications, was particularly disturbed by her targeting of a child's therapy tools and her lack of remorse. When the verdict came guilty on all counts, Evelyn's facade shattered. 6 months probation, a due law $5,000 fine, 100 hours of community service, and a 5-year ban from any HOA board, plus a restraining order keeping her 100 feet from my family. She exploded, her voice shrill with disbelief. "This is absurd. I was protecting property values. I was doing my job." The judge leaned forward, his gaze piercing. "Ms. Carter, you misunderstood your role. An HOA president isn't a monarch, and your bylaws don't trump the law or basic decency. Let this be a lesson." As Evelyn was led away, her face pale with the weight of her defeat, a collective sigh rippled through Willow Creek. The new HOA president, elected in a landslide, vowed transparency and fairness. Bird feeders returned, chalk art bloomed, and Max's toys sat proudly on our patio. But more than that, Willow Creek became a community again, not just a collection of houses, but a place where neighbors stood together. Standing in my backyard, watching Liam toss a ball to Max under the shade of ancient willows, I felt the scars of our battle fade. Evelyn's tyranny had tested us, but it also forged us. And as Liam's laughter echoed, I knew we'd done more than win a fight, we'd reclaimed our home.